Hey guys, it's Karl. So budget season rolling around for Google, especially in Canada, as we just got the brand new Pixel 7a that just got released at Google I/O. Unfortunately, us north of the border are not getting the new Pixel Fold, which just looks straight up dope. I've been bugging Google to get that up here, but we will have to wait for that. In terms of their budget option, the 7a is some pretty decent value. It starts at $499, around 650 Canadian, and typically the A devices from Google are the ones that I love, gravitate towards, just because of the cheaper price point, and they usually have either the same hardware or even better, which we'll soon see. This actually has a better megapixel count than the 7 Pro, surprisingly, but let's get to the unboxing first. So of course, you can see the first thing, I've got Coral. So this comes in 4 different colors. This is the Google Store exclusive. You can also grab it in a white, a black, the sky blue, which is almost like a bit of a tinted off-white, but the Coral caught my eye since it's the most unique and almost a bit like orange, which you know what, that I have a very strong addiction for. Lifting this off, and the color does look a bit corally. It does look different though than the color on the front. I never know why phone companies can never match that. This is a bit more on the orangey coral. This is a bit more on the red. I'll let you guys decide that. And underneath the box, unfortunately, no charging brick, as most phones don't have that, but we do have a USB-C cable. And I always like that Google has a classic USB-A to USB-C dongle. And remember to keep your devices protected. I typically go for these D-brand grip cases. They're easy to use. They have these nice grips on the sides, and you can even skin the backs of the actual cases themselves. If you want to keep it a bit more minimal, you like the feel of a phone without a case, you can still skin it to your heart's content. Obviously, I've got some funky Google colors here. The options are kind of endless. So now that we've got the phone fully set up, the first thing that kind of makes this a budget phone is the display. So 6.1 inches, it's flat, which I'm a fan of. It's not an adaptive refresh rate, so you can either toggle from 60 to 90. Obviously, if you go up to 90, you just have worse battery life. And one more thing about the display, just because I test out so many phones, is how chunky and how noticeable that bezel is. It obviously kind of goes away when you go to a black screen like on the app drawer, but on the main wallpaper, check out that chunkiness. Definitely the screen to body ratio is lower, just because of that chunkiness. So it's just something that I've kind of noticed. But talking about the battery, so when you compare this to the Pixel 7, and listen to my thesis here on this, I think Google should kind of axe the 7, just keep the 7a, the 7 Pro. The Pixel 7 is technically a tad bit larger than this. 6.3 versus 6.1 inches on this, but technically it has the same screen specs. This actually has a larger battery, so 4385 versus 4355, which almost is pretty much the same thing. The Pixel 7 is $599. This comes in at $100 cheaper, and the 7 Pro is $899. So that $100 difference between this and the classic or the standard 7, it just doesn't make too much sense. There's almost too many similarities between this and the 7, and for that $100 you can buy extra accessories, you can buy a case combo, you can buy a pair of earbuds if you want, just to have a cheaper device. So definitely the 7a is the one that I would recommend. And in terms of hardware, it still has the same Tensor G2 chip. So we saw that chip announced with the 7 Pro. That gives it the boost in pretty much everything that the phone does. So computational photography, machine learning, AI. I still think that Google has the best speech recognition. So for example, I can fire off a message here. Look how amazing Google's voice recognition software is. I can actually type this way faster, or I guess speak through the microphone way faster than I can actually type. It's so good. I can even ask, hey buddy, how is the Manchester United game tomorrow? Even though they technically haven't played yet, who do you think is going to win? That's pretty freaking awesome. Super, super solid. It included punctuations like question marks, exclamation marks, commas. I'm not too familiar with my English grammar, but Siri, try to match that. You are nowhere close. Google's input is just class leading. Further on that, this being a Google phone, it's obviously using Google Assistant. So for example, if you are taking an incoming call, it's spam, you can actually select Google Assistant to screen and answer that call, and you don't have to worry about it. Using Google Assistant to control all of my smart home tech. I actually have the Nest Hub, some lights, even my Wi-Fi mesh network, all run through Google. So super, super dope. But I would say the biggest advantage for Google smartphones still are probably the camera. Their computational photography is so on point. I already took a couple sample photos at their launch event in Toronto to showcase the different colorways and took a couple selfies at Google HQ. I'll include a couple more that I snagged, but the key things here are that computational photography, are those quick little edit tools like Magic Eraser, which is super handy. You can even unblur any photo in your Google photo library. So I have this one specific one that I took of Link when he was a puppy. It looks better on my Google device just because I can unblur it. I just didn't nail the focus. Such a dope feature. That's something that we still can't get over on iPhone or iOS. So in terms of the actual camera specs, it still has that iconic Pixel or Google band across, whether you think that's Daft Punk or RoboCop. It is a 64 megapixel main and a 13 megapixel ultra wide, which is actually better than what we see on the 7. And on the front, it's a 13 megapixel front facing camera. Once again, still better than the 7 and 7 Pro, which come in at just over 10. So it's really interesting that Google updated the camera specs and the camera hardware. Obviously, you'll get really good performance since the 7 and 7 Pro were decent cameras as well, some of the best that we've seen at the end of last year. And overall, I think the 7A is some awesome value. Obviously, there's competitors in the space that aren't technically name brand or aren't the famous brands that we're all used to for smartphones that technically have better specs. But if you compare it to, say, the iPhone SE, which this model, it has 128 gigs. This starts at $479, so it's pretty much around the same price. I would take the 7A 10 out of 10 times over this. You get a bigger screen, more updated design. We've got more cameras on it. I think it's a solid option to consider. Just Google, bring that Pixel Fold over to Canada so we can get our hands on it. I'd love to kind of compare the two from the cheaper or the budget-friendly model to the new baller model that you guys are releasing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick review. I hope you guys enjoyed this sweet colorway too. If I were to get one, it would definitely be in the coral. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and I will catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.